Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and Jorge André.
Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Soft Bites podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest. Me and André, we are very excited about this one. And welcome, Jaz. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on Soft Bites. It's a real pleasure to be, I would say, my two favorite Portuguese people in the whole wide world, but I will upset hundreds of Portuguese friends that I've made over the years, a lot of them dentists. So I will say, you guys just, I've yet to meet a Portuguese person that I just didn't gel so well with. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much. As I was talking to Manuela, how excited we are to have you here. I think you are... And I've dealt with many dentists and guys connected to education. I have to say you are one of the most authentic persons in the field. So I'm really excited to have you here and to have this chat with you. So thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'll start. We want to know a little bit more about you, Jaz, about your story. So tell us about, if you are feel comfortable to share your story on being a refugee. That I don't think most people know about that.
Correct, they don't, and I've kind of kept it like a little bit of a secret on my podcast, and I never shared it because I didn't feel like, I didn't want to distract from the, talking about subgingival dentistry, retraction cords, crown preps, and then suddenly you talk about this. So I guess thank you for providing a platform for this. You guys are mixing the dental and the human together, which is a beautiful thing. And so let's talk about that, right? So I came to the UK in 1996 as a refugee. I was born in Afghanistan in a place called Jalalabad. And from speaking to my parents and my grandparents, everyone, Sikhs, which is what the religion I am, live, and Hindus lived very peacefully in a predominantly Islamic nation, Afghanistan. And since over 100 years, Sikhs and Hindus have lived there and in peacefully with the locals in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, when the Taliban troubles uprose, it caused a lot of issues. Lots of Sikhs fled for the safety of their lives. Lots of Hindus fled. And over the last few years, there's been lots of violence and war and the Sikh temples being destroyed and all that kind of stuff. So even now, unfortunately, the amount of Sikh people now living in Afghanistan is probably less than 100 now, which is a shame because it'd be thousands. So that community has now gone to Manuela in Belgium. It's gone to Germany. It's come to the UK. It's gone to India. It's gone east that way. So it's gone all over the world. So it's like a Afghani Sikh diaspora, very well connected, very close-knit community all over the world. And in West London, where I grew up, huge community of Afghani Sikhs. And I'm just, and every day I pinch myself. Like, I'm so lucky that I managed to somehow escape all those monstrosities and receive a British education. And it's just down to luck. It's just purely down to luck. And when I see all these refugees now and what happened in Syria some time ago, and then the new Afghani refugees coming, everything comes in circles. And the Taliban again, and then recently in Reading, where I live now, these Afghani refugees coming. I'm like, wow, man! All they just need is an opportunity and an education.
Yes, thank you so much for allowing yourself to share this story with us. I remember that I talked to you when you were in Portugal, and you just said that to me. I was really surprised. I had no idea, which made you, for me, to respect you even more, and not only about the work that you do, but especially all this positive character that you have. And when you were talking, I was just thinking about, well, you say that you were lucky, right? But do you think that this positive personality that you have and this that you look like a guy that constantly looks to the bright side of life, right? You're not that much focusing on adversity. You are always looking for solutions. At least that's That's the feeling that I have. Do you think, and I'm just going to go a little bit off the script that we have here, do you think this is something that you have developed intentionally, or do you think this is something that was born with you? I mean, did you have to work towards that? I mean, did the adversity made you this way, or do you think that's someone that's either genetics or that's something that was already inside you? How do you think about that? How do you see that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The answer is I don't really know, but I can guess. I can guess as to how it is. And Steve Jobs famously said that you can't connect the dots looking forward; you can only connect the dots looking back. And I'm a huge fan of that. And so when I look at my background and the biggest fortunate, I mean, my parents, they took a huge risk to do what they did. My mom was pregnant when we came to the UK and stuff. So thanks to my parents for making it to the UK and making it live and all that kind of stuff and the community and stuff. So, I think, wow, luck was a huge part in that. And then what really changed me and my path was the education. I'll mention again, the education I received just when I was 6 years old and being able to learn English. And I took a liking. It was the only thing that I was good at for the first time in my life, the only thing I can actually do. So I just went and so poured myself into learning and education, and I gained a lot of self-confidence from being at the top of my class from a very young age, because that was the only thing that I could call my own. It's like this, I didn't really have much growing up, but to have these sort of getting a good mark on my homework for me was like the highest praise at the time. So I guess when I look back, that was good. And then going forward, when I think about the books that I've read, there's a book called Quiet, and looks at the brains of introverts. And when you cut the brains of an introvert, they have a huge amygdala. You're smiling, Manuela. Maybe you've read this book?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No. I'm smiling because I'm writing it down because I think it's important. I would like to read it, and because you were talking about the amygdala. Go on.
Yeah, well, I know you're very much into this field, and so when you dissect an introvert, you will find a large amygdala compared to someone else. So what that book taught me was that we all, in our development from a young age, yes, there's a huge genetic component. Like I look at my son's personality at age 3 now, and they say that your personality at age 3 will closely mirror your personality at age 18, and it's because you have all these channels and pathways. But if you exercise certain channels and certain pathways, they become stronger and stronger. So I don't know where it was in my time. I was introverted in the past. I was quiet. I was had bullying. I had adversities in my past. I was the only brown person, the only guy with a turban and stuff. Growing up in this huge school of mostly Caucasian children. So I went through all that. So when I look back, it's like, okay, what was it that made me so positively focused? I think it's just the books that I read into, the slowly being exposed to these kind of schools of thoughts and whatnot, and it kind of just happened, I guess. But I do believe that when it comes to nature versus nurture, I think nature plays a huge role, and then what you feed it, how you nourish it with the nature, and it just fell into place. And I do want to say that when I had braces, and it sounds really, we're on a dental podcast and it sounds really cheesy, but if you asked me why I became a dentist, I would have said the same thing. I had braces and it completely changed me as a person. And I think that was a huge part in my journey. I used to be really embarrassed of my teeth and whatnot. And I really can pinpoint age 13, 14 when I really started to smile more and become more confident. And I think that for me, part of my journey, it was huge.
Jaz, so I guess you would say, just before the next question, I think that there's a big part of intentionally changing yourself, because I think this is really important for people listening to us, because I am 44, and in Portugal, when I was like in my teens, there was not this culture of something very simple as you are able to change yourself, this notion that you are able to change yourself. And I had to discover that I have to say that I had discovered that very late. So I think that you, and this is a question for you, don't you think that in traditional education, they are lacking this part in terms of the curriculums? Because you said that you read the books, right? So on your own, you read some books for emotional development or personal development. But I would sum it down to this: the notion that you can change yourself, not only your body, but also your emotions and your personality for to achieve whatever you think is your goal in life. So I think that this notion that I don't know that everybody has that in their teens, which is you are able to do some positive changes in yourself. And don't you think this lacks in the traditional curriculum? I don't know how it is in the UK now, but at least in Portugal, this is lacking.
I agree. I think we welcome this change and how you're able to change the thinking and your mindset, and we are amenable to that, and we can change the way we think, and that manifests in a physical change, emotional change, and that they're all connected. But I was saying to Manuela that for some reason, I must have read something. I started to seek these scenarios, these positions where I would be uncomfortable. I would purposely seek these out where it would make me feel really, really sick to the core that, okay, I'm going to be, I don't want to do this. I don't want to stand up in front of 30 people and say this. I don't want to put myself out there. And I would seek those opportunities out. It was like a maniac. And I think that really fast-tracked my growth in terms of my emotional intelligence, because I was able to flourish in these very uncomfortable scenarios.
That's so interesting. Let me just say something, because I completely identified with what you were saying, because I remember being in my more than 20 years ago in the university and feeling that nauseous and completely out of my comfort zone when I had exams and things like that. And at the time, because I didn't know how to deal with it, at the time I shut myself down. It was very difficult. It was very difficult for me. And fast forward 20 years after, I realized that those are the situations that make me grow, and I could not see that at that time. I was not ready. No one told me. I remember going into the toilet, calling my mother and crying and say, I cannot do this and I cannot do this. And my mother, okay. But she also didn't know how to help me. That's not the way that we grow up. That's not the way that we were educated. No one told us about these things. And nowadays, it's just like you said, I put myself out there. I see when I have a situation, I say, okay, I'm going to write this email. I'm going to do this proposition. And then I have this, oh my God, but I'm not going to be able to do this or to talk. And I say, yes, you are. You will learn it. Second time, it will be easier. So it's for me, it was something that it needed learning, but nowadays it's also like that. And also what André said, I think that in our generation, it was more about self-control. So we had this notion that we could not change ourselves, but we were able somehow to control certain parts of ourselves. Nowadays, with all these notions of emotional intelligence, just like you said, Jaz, we learned that it's all about self-management. We can manage ourselves, we can learn, we can grow. And even our neural connections through neuroplasticity, everything changes. But
that's the key word right there, neuroplasticity. Yeah, that's going to be the word of the century.
Yeah, but we have to do the work. And I think this is in dentistry is very important. Because sometimes dentists complain about their everyday dentistry life, but they have to realize that they have to be able to do the work in order to bring some change into their days. So that's really important.
They need to sweat. Everyone needs to sweat, whether it's emotionally or physically. That sweat needs to happen. And I saw this amazing quote the other day, guys, André and Manuela. I saw this amazing quote. It said, "Don't be afraid to suck at something new."
Yeah.
And I put a caption. I shared it on my Instagram. I put a caption that says, "This is how I feel every time I learn a new technique on a course."
Okay, sorry to interrupt, André. Continue.
So, Jaz, looking back at what we were talking about and the importance of going through difficult moments, can you tell us about some of those moments in your life and how was that helpful in any way?
I'm going to share something with you guys that I've never shared publicly before. And you know what? Let's do it. Fine. So you guys are getting a lot of different stories here. I've kept this one secret, but no longer. Growing up, didn't have much money. and around about age 14, teenage years, all your friends got nice things, and I couldn't afford it at the time. And my parents, bless them, I didn't feel like I could ask them for money and stuff. So I felt like I need to take matters into my own hands. So what I just don't know. I found this dude online who's like, he's from China, he's from Hong Kong or China. I forgot where he was from. And then he was like, and I was on eBay and stuff. And like, there was this like idea to do kind of like drop shipping. So basically, I fulfill an order and someone else will post it. So as a 14-year-old, I was using my mum's. I made my mum an eBay account. I registered her credit card, but I was doing everything, right? So I thought, okay, let's start some sort of a business. And so what it was that I was advertising and selling Tiffany & Co. jewelry. Okay. I hope I don't get, if anyone from Tiffany is listening, I had no idea that it was counterfeit at the time. So I'm going to come to that in a moment. Okay. So I was selling this Tiffany & Co. jewelry online, and I was like learning about copy and marketing, which I guess, fast forward to 15, 20 years, it now is coming handy with the courses and education stuff. So, you look back and you think, exactly, it came in handy back then, but I was learning about, okay, how can I present this product and stuff? So then people in the UK would buy this Tiffany jewelry, and I didn't know what Tiffany was. I don't know what Tiffany was. I don't know how much Tiffany was. The guy just said recommended retail like $60 or whatever, and I was selling it. Obviously, Tiffany costs a lot more than that. I didn't know it was fake, right? So I was fulfilling this order. This dude from China was shipping it, and I would keep like 20%. So for me at the time, making 10 or 15 pounds a day, I thought I was like, wow, I was it at that age, and it was going really well, and I was enjoying it. And then suddenly all these orders were being fulfilled, but the shipping wasn't happening. So I was liable, or my mum was liable, technically legally, to 100%. And we had some people complain that it was fake. I was like, what? That this thing as fake jewelry exists? So as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old at the time, suddenly the guy who you'd liaise with every day over MSN, you remember MSN? I was liaising on MSN every day, and he wasn't responding anymore. And suddenly I had like £800 worth of orders that weren't fulfilled, and it was all on me as a 15-year-old. And my parents had no idea I was doing this for like last 2 months. And so this was crippling. Like, I laugh about it now, but at the time I was sick. I was stressed. I'd broken my leg playing football as well. It was a sad time. So I was there on the crutches, and emotionally, mentally, all I could think was like, oh my God, how am I going to find £800 to pay these people? Because, technically what I'm doing is wrong here. And I at the time, I almost spoke up to my parents. Like every day I was waiting on MSN, waiting, when's this guy going to come online? When's this guy going to come online? Anyway, long story short, he came online. Turns out he was hospitalized and whatnot. He sorted it out, but it was the most difficult 50 days of my life. Daily email exchanges with these unhappy customers saying, look, I'm really sorry. I'm going to figure out what happened, whatever. Real stress. That was extremely stressful time. And of course, exams, GCSEs, everything, that was all happening. It all got resolved, and I promise I never wanted to touch this kind of stuff again. Never wanted to do business with someone I didn't look in the eyes and I didn't know. So that was my a very dark moment in my life. But yeah, it taught me a lot.
So you have spent the money that you have won? Couldn't you get it back?
I like that you used one, because it was like gambling in a way. Yeah, of course, man. I bought like a guitar for £40. I was buying clothes. I could finally afford like nice clothes. Like I was going out. I was going to the movies, which I couldn't do as much for. So yeah, I was really enjoying my teenage life. Finally had money. So yeah, it was a really struggle. But I look back and like, wow, I learned so much. Like I never wished that upon any teenager, especially someone who's like looking for money at the time. But yeah, it was an interesting period of my life.
Nice.
And you learned a lot.
I learned how to manage upset customers. I learned about the importance of who you do business with and what kind of businesses are high risk and low risk and that kind of stuff. So it taught me a lot, man.
Jaz, let's talk about your podcast, because I think it's the podcast of dentistry. It's the reference for yeah.
Oh wow!
It is.
It really.
I don't know if it is, but that's very sweet coming from you both. Thank you so much. You've both been great guests on the show.
And I want to know, how did your podcast started? How did you come up with the idea? I personally feel, and because I already read motivations, and I think they are very noble, because you have this mindset of wanting to help and wanting to share knowledge. But I want to hear it from you. How did you come up with the idea of the Protrusive podcast, and how did you felt that could be useful to dentistry?
The idea was really random, actually, and I didn't envisage to become what it become today. In terms of, I get so many nice comments, people, a nice community that we've built now, and I'm so glad that you two are part of it and been previous guests and whatnot, and just making knowledge accessible. These questions, these little niggly questions that we're always, usually you get that information at the bar at 2 a.m. and you ask a prosthodontist some question and they give you the answer direct, and we'll make the podcast so that, you can get that anywhere around the world. But the way it started was, you may or may not know, I was in Singapore for 18 months. I was working in dentistry in Singapore. I was a dentist there. Me and my wife were there. We were enjoying it. We were traveling. We were working. Then my wife got homesick, and then I came back. And then amongst the UK dentists, this word started to spread that, hey, there's a dentist. He went to Singapore. He lived a good life. He came back, and now he can teach you how to move to Singapore and pay little tax and enjoy the sunshine, go on holidays and that kind of stuff. So my phone number started circulating. So as I was driving from London to Oxford, like an hour back, I was speaking to a different dentist every day on the phone, answering the same damn questions. How much do you earn? Is there a language barrier? How do I get my license? What's the indemnity like? Et cetera, the same things. And after about the 8th person, I was like, okay, well, I want to listen to my audiobooks again. I want to have to speak to someone new and answer the same things again. How can I get my message? How can I hit record on a WhatsApp message or something and deliver it to the world? And so the first episode was expat dentists in Singapore. And so that was the reason. It was actually selfish. I wanted to not have to do one-on-one phone calls anymore. I wanted to give one to many by putting this message out. And then the second episode was, that was fun. How about we speak to my colleague who went to America recently? What's it like to move to America as a UK graduate? Then episode 4 was like Australia. And then, you know how you mentioned, Manuela, about, sharing knowledge and that kind of stuff? I'm a lifelong learner. So I wanted to ask the questions that I wanted to know about. And at the same time, so it was selfish. I was learning, but at the same time, people are there like a fly on the wall learning as well. And that's the origin of it. And now what it's become now is a lot more. We're going to come out with CPD and stuff because the demand is there. People listen. They spend hours listen, and they want to be able to click on and get a CPD certificate. I get all sorts of weird and wonderful requests for speaking and stuff, which is amazing. I pinch myself like, whoa, how has this happened? It helped me to push. It helped me to. I was able to tear a hole in the world and be like, you know what, I'm here and I'm here to share and I'm here to have fun and let's do this. So yeah, it was a nice little position that I made.
I think just.
And Manuela, she was talking. Sorry, Manuela.
No. I'm just going to say this because I think one of the reasons of your success is that at least I feel that you are having fun. You can see that you are having fun. You are authentic. You really enjoy what you are doing. You really feel that what you are doing makes a difference and it brings content, useful content, and you really enjoy yourself. So I just wanted to mention this.
You mentioned that, and that we were talking before we hit record button about some struggles and imposter syndrome and thinking, is it worth what I'm doing and stuff. And a few times in my podcasting journey so far, the last 3 years, I've been like, I've got a team now. I've got a team. We spent hours producing each episode now. We've moved to a situation we're going to have the notes on the left-hand side, over the video on the right. So it's becoming a real big operation. It used to take 5 hours to make an episode. Now it takes upwards of 20 man-hours to produce an episode. So it's getting there. And sometimes, is it worth it and stuff? But sometimes when I get an email saying that, you know what, I was in a dark place in dentistry and I just feel as though I needed you in my morning drives to get me through the day. And now I believe it or not, I actually enjoy it. And now I booked onto this course that you recommended, and I'm really enjoying it. And I did my first crown prep. I did my first onlay. And if it wasn't for episode 59, I wasn't able to do it. And on YouTube, someone, oh my God. So this dentist, 1 year out of dental school, on her last day at her sort of foundation training position, she was able to section and elevate from a molar to remove it. And she commented on the YouTube saying, on my last day, I managed to do this because of this episode. I didn't learn this from dental school. I learned it from episode 88 or whatever it was. So it's feedback like that, that thinks, wow, this is working. People are learning, people are sharing. And so that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
That is so cool, and Manuel, I don't know if you met Jaz in person,
Rich.
but he really is this character that he really wants, and I think this is something that is very rare. That he really wants you to be good around him. There are some people that it's just like they just want to just want to keep the energy from themselves, and Jaz is one of those guys that really wants you to make you feel good around him, and that's something that is really rare, and especially in dentistry. So regarding that, I haven't read the values and the goals of maybe you have it written down somewhere on the podcast, but we know that you have this sharing and this abundance mindset. I mean, so your success is not at all, it means that someone else is losing. Can you tell us about that? And was it something that did it grow with you? Or is it something that you transformed yourself into because you realized that was the way to be?
I think when I look back at the different books I read, self-development, I'm a huge fan of self-development. It must have been the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is like when you Google self-development books, that's like the number 1 recommended one. So it must have been like, in my teenage years when I read that. And then it talked about the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. Now, I hope I'm not confusing books, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the parts of it. And so having that and learning, okay, what is scarcity mindset? And do I identify with that? Are there any things that in my life that I look at and I've adopted the scarcity mindset, and being open to change and changing the way that you move your perspective and to have the abundance mindset. So yes, scarcity mindset, when you think that if my podcast is doing well, other podcasts are not doing well, or if this dentist is doing well, that means that this other dentist is not doing well. That's absolute BS. We know that there is a place for all of us to grow and learn and share, and it's amazing. It's not a net zero game. Everyone has a benefit to be gained, and we can all win in this. And I think once you adopt that, the positivity just enthuses. You're more open to collaborations. You're more open to share, and good things happen when you share.
Yeah, but I think it really is important that in dentistry, because I don't know why, but dentistry is a very unique profession, probably because of the access of dentistry almost all over the world now. I don't think that kind of mindset is something that is really present. So thank you for that, for trying to share that kind of vision, because I think that we all, not only a few, I think that we all need to understand that. We all need to understand that dentistry is ultimately about helping people, and the closer and the less competitive that we are in ourselves, and the more that we want to help ourselves, ultimately we'll help more people. And so thank you so much for that.
No, thank you, Andre. And I think I just want to add that, in practice and bringing it back to the real world of practice, let's say you work in a local neighborhood and then there's a competitor dentist down the road. And I think we see this too many times where, you worry that if your patient loses a crown and they go to the dentist and the other dentist goes, this isn't very good. And why do we have this fear? Because, it's unfortunate. We hear these stories and whatnot, right? And it worries you. So I think if the sooner we dentists look after each other, learn not to throw each other under the bus, because, I've done it before where, and I'm sure, Andre, you've done this as well, where I see a patient, this is my first year at dental school, see a patient, large amalgam on the distal of a second molar, which had an overhang. I was like, look, this got an overhang. It's not very good. It's sealed, but, let's improve it. And then you struggle so much doing it. You think, oh my God, no wonder this amalgam had an overhang. It's probably better than what I could do. So you never know the struggle that the dentist had doing it. And I think we need to remember that and always be present with that. We need to promote each other. We need to make sure that we don't throw each other under the bus. And that pretty much embodies exactly that abundance mentality.
And have this respect for this wonderful profession, isn't it? And having this respect for something that can really have such an impact on the patients' lives.
Just to close this segment, I would like for you to, and we already talked about that, but for you to talk a little bit about the importance of access to education, because I think that you just like you said, and you gave that wonderful example of someone that has done a clinical procedure based on one of your episodes, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But I know that this is very important to you to share education, and you also mentioned that while growing up, education and it was something that you had to also feel confident, that you use as a confidence factor. Do you also think that's why? Because now that's the reason why nowadays you feel like that you are this vehicle to share education and to share information with others, because I mean, education and information is power.
Yes, and knowledge, power, and implementation more and more. I'm realizing, and that's why I'm sharing with everyone that, knowledge is great, but implementation is where it's really at. And I guess if I go back really in time, and to link it back to the very first thing of the podcast about my journey, when I was 6 years old, so maybe 7, and it was 1 year in the country, and I was just learning English, and then we had this big leaderboard at the front of my primary school. So it's like, grade 3 or something, right? Big leaderboard. Everyone's name on it. And every time you manage to get all the spellings correct, there's like 6 or 7 words you have to write. Every time you get the spelling correct, all of them, you get a star next to the name, okay? So everyone had all these stars. I didn't have a single star. And that first day, age 7, I got my first star. And I remember at home being, practicing writing the word home, HOME, DOG, practicing. And I got my first star. I will never forget that as the moment of my life that changed my entire trajectory, because it taught me a very valuable lesson that hard work always pays off. That was when I learned that, age 7. And then I always think back to that moment when I'm in struggle, that, that if I didn't do my practicing at home, and my mum really watching, and she was like, didn't know how to help me, my homework, whatever, but I did it myself. And so that was a really, really important part. So in terms of now, sharing and getting everyone involved, it's only natural that I got into this space in terms of promoting that. And there was this book, I know I talk about lots of books and stuff, but it's so important to read.
Of course.
Was a book that was recommended to me, and it was called Strengths Finder 2.0, Strengths Finder. And I encourage everyone to do this. So you do this, it's like it's a book that you buy, and then it's like an online quiz that you do. And then by doing this quiz, takes like 15, 20 minutes, it tells you, evidence-based something, your 5 top strengths. And the book argues that we should focus on our strengths, not on our weakness. We focus on our strengths. And my number one strength was competitive, very competitive, and in sports and everything like that. And so maybe it's because I was competitive that star that I got when I was 7 that really fueled me. It's like, wow, I got my first star. How do I get all the other stars so I can race to the top and everything like that? So when it comes to that, you have to look at your strengths. And now I'm playing to my strengths. I'm trying to level up myself and learn. But in that journey, I'm sharing to level everyone up. But there's level everyone else up as well. And there's so much beauty in that.
Can I just...
Yeah. And
sorry. I just wanted to, it's out of the alignment. Can I ask you, Jaz, what about your communication skills? Where does that come from? Because you are very outspoken. That's in a very authentic way, and you are always smiling. Is that runs in your family, or you have also to put yourself out there, or is that a natural thing? Because you have very good communication skills.
I appreciate that. I never saw myself as that, but more and more from feedback and stuff, people say that you present yourself well. I don't know how that stems from. I do have this one theory, is that at school, I did enjoy drama. I enjoyed acting, role playing, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that helped me to become more confident as well. And so I believe that when we're in practice, when we're working, it's show business. I believe that we have to put on a show, and even if you have a bad day, you have to, right? You just have to. So once you start to internalize that, and once you do things like power posing, uprighting your body posture, and that changes your internal physiology and emotions, and it all runs together. So your body represents your mind, and there's a huge connection. So those things I think I've absorbed and I've adopted over the years, and now that's how I like to live, because even if I've had a bad day, like, it's a very British thing to do when you walk and it's like, you're right. And everyone says, you're right, right? No one ever says, actually, no, I'm not okay. Now, I'm not saying that it's firstly, it's okay to be not okay. It's firstly, I want to say that.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be dwelling and focusing on the negativity when you could be trying to change your physiology to change your reality. Yes. And I think maybe that's how I've come to be this smiley, positive person, because I truly believe that if I project that to the universe, that will get reflected back at me.
Yeah, and that's very interesting what you're saying, because both me and Manuel, we are firm believers of that. And I'm just reminding of a book that I read from a Portuguese guy that's working in the States, Antonio Damasio. The most important book that he wrote was Descartes' Error, and basically he talks about neurology and neurophysiology. And one of the last books, he was very clear about one thing: is that we usually believe that you need to have good internal mindset conditions so that you can improve your external world. But now we know it's actually the opposite. You have to change your external world, inclusively your body, like you were saying. You have to change your physiology in order to feel good. So, for example, if you feel like, oh, I'm just going to work out, I'm just going to do this when I feel good. No, you have to start doing this so that then you start to feel good. So you have to, there's something that you need to intentionally change on your external world, which might be your own body, so that you can start to feel okay. So that's very, very interesting. So you get,
and Andre, body language is, I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
I must have read something when I was 17
Yes.
about the power of body language, and that's always imprinted in my mind.
Yeah.
I always think, even like facial expressions when you're speaking to your patients and the tone of voice, it's a bit like saying to a patient, well, we can do some crown lengthening, or we can do some crown lengthening. Do you see? I obviously wouldn't use that term, but it's a huge difference in how you project yourself to the universe.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Of course. But it's really this notion that you really have to work, you have to be intentionally on how you want to feel. It's not, you cannot wait to feel good to do something. You have to do something to feel good. Even the smile. If you smile, you'll feel better, right? It's just not only from mind to the body. It's just mainly and especially from the body, the outside world to the mind.
And I also think worrying and happiness is a choice. I do believe that,
yes.
And I do believe that. And I know there's lots of dark things. Like if you're actually clinically depressed, that's a serious thing. Okay,
of
first
course.
We need to
that's important to say. Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, and it's important to seek help for that. But when you know, in less serious things, you know, when my wife tells me she is stressed, I correct it. I say no. I say at this moment in time, you are choosing to be stressed at this moment in time. You're choosing to feel stress. And I live by that mentality. And yes, I get stressed. And I sometimes choose to feel stressed. And I know that, okay, you know what? For the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be miserable. And I choose to be miserable. And I'm going to do it in the corner alone. And I want to get it out of my system. And I do that. But I'm very much mindful about how I project myself to the universe.
Yeah, we all want sometimes to feel miserable for a few moments because we want to spoil yourselves, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I think it's really important that and for me this is something really personal, because I think that I found this really late. I mean, we Portuguese, we have this, I don't know if you know, we have fado. Fado is the kind of Portuguese music which is very sad, which is basically
on the negativity.
It's like you are a victim. You are a victim of the universe, and therefore there's nothing else that you can do that you have to. Yeah.
When I did the city tour, in Porto, she ended the tour talking about this, about, you know, there's nothing really better in the universe, and you don't have to work too hard, all these things, and like, you know, what life happens to you. And
even the word that we have, saudade, is like this feeling of something that it's not here. So we are always anxious or looking for something that we don't have. So yeah, it's a sad way of living.
Yeah, and Fado is basically using that feeling and making it exponentially and feeling as sad as possible, right? That's something really Portuguese. And for me, that is something that personally changed my life, which was understanding that you have, in every second of your life, you always have the ability of trying to do something to help yourself. I mean, if you can't run, if you can't run, you just walk. If you can't walk, you just crawl. But just keep trying to help yourself in the best way that you can. Sometimes it works better. Sometimes it's worse. It's not so good. But I think that having this, trying to overcome this victim mentality is really, really important. And you are one of the biggest examples of that. And you were talking about the vertical preparation course. So it was really a pleasure for me to have met you there. And I have to say that I've said this before, that you really have this very positive energy around you, and I think that one of the things is that you can clearly see that your main goal is that people around you feel good, and this is something that really, really struck me. So, how was your time in Porto, and when's the next time that we're going to do it? I'm really looking forward
I'm thinking
to that.
already, maybe we were talking May next year or something like that, because I get messages all the time saying, Jaz, I want to learn verteprep, but I want to learn it only from you. I'm like, no, you don't want to learn from me, you learn from Andre. So let me be the
It's
facilitator.
both.
Let me take you to Porto. And it was such a great time. And I think the need for it was there, and the timing was there. After COVID, we want those. It was like a retreat, right? It was such a nice retreat. We had
such a good time.
What was it? Which limoncello was it? Which was it? The
sangria.
We had?
Yeah, this is the place where I usually go out to have dinner and to party. It's called Chico Fish, which we have dinner, which we ate on the day before, and we had also the limoncello sangria.
It was a limoncello sangria, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's
a classic.
And then your dad's restaurant and everything. It was amazing. Yes. And then what you told me at the restaurant, I don't know if you listen to a podcast, but on 2 or 3 episodes already, I've echoed this once again. I've quoted you every time. I said that, Andre was sat next to me and he said something so beautiful, so cliche in a way, but we need to hear it, right? Is that life is not about the destination. Life is not even about the journey. You said this.
Yes.
Life is about the company. And honestly, I was like, I need to hear that. It's a beautiful reminder. Life is about the company.
Yeah, but that was something that even personally for me, because it really only struck me over the last 1 or 2 years. And it was, we do this course, me and Manuela, and it's a mix of the mindful and the emotional part with my practical and very practical tips on management and stuff like that. And we were talking, and I was talking in one of the class. I was talking, well, this is not about the destination; it's about the journey. So yes, so I think these are three important steps in life. So first of all, you want to have the goal. You want to prove that you are better than someone else. So then you have to understand, well, this is not about the goal, because when you reach the goal, you realize that you're not happy. So you have to enjoy the moment. So then it's about the destination. But I also think that it comes a point in your life, it's not even about the goal, or it's also about the goal, it's also about the destination. But the company, people that are next to you, or the people that you actually can influence, that's actually what makes everything special. Because otherwise, it's just, okay, yes, I have a goal. Yes, I have fun during the goal. But
that is a basic human need, isn't it? It's a tribal thing, right? The goal and the journey, they're not tribal. It's the people, it's the company. That is the tribal nature, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was so good. It was such a wonderful time to have you there. And I really hope that we can do this next year.
100%. I'm thinking already May next year or something. I'm getting messages all the time saying, when's it going to happen? I'm looking at my diary like, not this year. But next year for sure, it'll be great to take a group to Porto again. What a beautiful place. And I told you already, April was a tiny bit on the chilly side. So maybe May, a little bit warmer. The beach was beautiful. I had Francesina. It was Francesina, right? I had for the first time.
Of course.
We have pastel de nata now on a monthly basis. My son loves it. So many things I learned about Portuguese culture. It was absolutely amazing.
That is so cool.
Jaz, I want to ask you, because I started listening, I still didn't reach the end, one of your latest episodes on the podcast about parenthood and dentistry, where you had Dr. Hardeep Kaur as your guest, and you guys talked about unique challenges that dentists face as parents. You are a father also. I would like to hear your opinion on, because for dentists, I think finding balance between the professional and personal life, it's a big thing, and some colleagues really struggle with that. So I would like to hear how you do it, because you have this very busy professional life with all these sides of it. You're not just a clinic dentist working in chair. You have all this other things going on, but you are also a father, a husband. You have a personal life. You were just telling us that you are having a very busy summer, family-wise and wedding-wise. How do you do it? Any secrets to have that balance?
I think I can share a few things. I mean, firstly, when I was in final year of dentistry at dental school in Sheffield, I opened up the magazine, and it was all these people in the year above who had just qualified, and there was interviews with them. And one of the images was of a lady dentist who just qualified, and there was a speech bubble next to her. It says, "I like that I'm going into a profession that I can work 9 to 5 and I don't have to take my work home with me. And that was me in final year dentistry. That brainwashed me. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. So I go home, I treat my patients, I come home, and I don't have to think about teeth. That's pretty cool. I thought at the time. The biggest lie ever. Right?
Yes,
the biggest
true,
lie
true,
ever. Huge
true.
lie. Okay? And so you realize that
That's
afterwards
very
that there's a
important
huge
because
lie.
some
So
dentists have struggled with this because they try to live that, and that's impossible. That does not exist. That's a very important thing to be said. That's a lie. Yeah.
Wow, I love that you said that, actually, Manuela, because you're right. It maybe I thought that maybe because the world I'm in, that maybe I fell into this, or I forced this upon me. But I do believe that dentistry as a 9 to 5 job, it doesn't exist anymore. Right?
That's very interesting. We usually talk a lot about this in the podcast. And I think that dentistry has changed so much. I think that in the last maybe 20 years ago, you would do like single tooth dentistry. So you treat the tooth, or you come 3 times to treat this tooth, or you come 4 times to treat 4 teeth. But now everything has changed. There is no more unidisciplinary dentistry. Everything is multidisciplinary. So, and the consequence of that is that you have homework. You have homework. Lab communication, colleagues communication, treatment planning, treatment plan presentation. You have so much homework. So and I think this is really important. There's the job from 9 to 5 doesn't exist anymore.
And also, yeah.
And so that yes,
no,
Manuela.
continue.
So that made me think that it's a 9 to 5 job, which, like we said, it's a lie. So how do we do it? We come home, we have our clin checks, we have our treatment plans, and of course, in the first 5 years, I was course after course after course after. I was a course junkie, and I needed that. Because dental school didn't prepare me; it prepares no one, right? It's a bit like driving. You only learn how to drive after you pass the damn test, not before. So you need to get those hours behind the wheel and the hours behind the chair, and then with dentistry, you get less. The dental education, dental school is getting diluted and diluted and diluted, and it's really unfair because the postgraduate education world is having to pick up the slack, and it's costing us money, it's costing us time, it's costing a best part of our childhood. We sacrifice our 20s for the dentist who really wants to do good and get into the right practice environment and try and do the kind of cases that they want to do. It robs us of our 20s almost, because it's just gone courses, and you're away and you're trying to balance everything. So it's a real struggle. So I think to answer the question, I came to a point where I said, what do I want for my life, and how do I do life design? So at least you got a paper, and I decided that I don't want to commute anymore. I don't want to commute. I just want to reduce my commute, okay? I decided that if there is out there a shift pattern system, so I can work early in the morning or late in the evening, I would like to have half a day to do all these other things. Otherwise, I can't do all these other things. So now I work 8 till 2, or I work 2 till 8 in a practice that's been doing this system for the last 40 years. So most practices doing this, it was inflicted by COVID, or at least in the UK. I know you guys have different hours in Portugal, maybe. But in the UK, this practice has been doing it for 30 years. And I chose to find a property 15 minutes away, walk to this practice. That's how I can now fulfill my duties as a father, and not having feel guilty that, I'm not doing my work, because I cut out the commute time. I'm nearby to work. I sort of picked and chose these aspects of my life to make it. And now I don't edit the podcast episodes because I'm stealing 5 hours now. Can I find a team? So I found freelancers, and now we've got a team who've now just worked for Protrusive, so that we can work together, because they are better at editing, quicker at editing. They enjoy it more than I do. So it's about realizing, whether you own a practice, whether you are an associate, whatever you are, if there's any aspect of your work that you can give to someone else. And I guess, I don't know if this is the right place to say it here, but even things like gardening, right? I don't do gardening. I don't know how to garden, all right? And my wife's like, the gardening bill was so much this month. And I was like, listen, Sim, it would take me hours to learn how to do it. Okay, it's better we just pay the gardener, and I can work on the business, so I can have time with the Sean. So anything that you feel as though you can delegate someone else, and you earn more doing work than you can do in terms of doing that task, then I'm a big fan of delegation.
Yes, I agree. You were talking about Shan. Is it the name of your kid?
Ishan is my son, yes.
Ishan.
Yes.
Yeah, even your face, it completely changed when you talked about him. You even your expressions. So it's going to have a life completely different than yours, isn't it? the bring up. And one of the things that I know that worries you, and I've heard this subject mentioned many times. I think there's this thing that says that good times create weak people. Weak people create something like that, which basically is that the grit and the effort and the adversity that you went through, it's almost impossible that you try to implement that in the life of someone that you love so much, isn't it? So if you love him so much, how will you be able to make him go through things that you know that he needs to be able to be, I won't say even successful. I would go even further. You know that he needs to go through some things for him to be happy. Mm-hmm. And confident. So
happiness and headstrong and happy, and have the grit and the determination and all these beautiful characteristics that we all like. So
what's your doubts and what's your plan for that? I mean, if you do have a plan for that.
I don't have a plan yet, but it's something I told you in an email. Like, this keeps me up at night. This is the real big philosophical question that I ask myself, is that how will I do it? In the book Outliers, it talks about income and how much income you need to be happy, right? And after like $70,000, any further income does not influence happiness at all, not in the slightest. And this is evidence-based. In fact, it might have the opposite effect. Yeah. So, and then what they talk about is, okay, your children being spoiled and whatnot, and how do you actually raise them up the right way? So, when I look back at my childhood, I didn't have my own room. I was sleeping on the floor in the living room for 17 years of my life. The first time I had my own bedroom was I went to uni. I didn't want to go back home. I had my own room at uni. This was a huge thing for me, right? So me and my sister shared a room for many years, and then she had the room, and I was sleeping in the living room on the floor and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, is it ethical for me to make Ishan sleep on the floor so he can learn to be adaptive and not be so comfortable? How do I do it? I don't know, but something that I'm going to be working consciously very hard on is that how can I instill the values in him that make him not too comfortable, so that he appreciates that everything has been given to him, but I've had to work hard for it. My parents had to work hard for it, and not to lose sight and touch of that. How can I make him humble? How can I instill humility? How can I make sure that ego doesn't come up? How can I make sure that he has all those attributes that we talked about, but nowadays where everything is handed to him? And I look at him, and my wife buys him these branded shoes. Like, why does a freaking 3-year-old need branded shoes, right? But my wife has those values in her. I'm like, okay, fine. But I think, how are we going to instill these important values in this young person? And that, I don't know. I don't know the answer. If you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
I have no idea.
I have no idea, but I think that
I really
the example is very important, and you are giving it. So I think they learn with examples. But that's all I got. Nothing else.
But if I think about it like for 30 seconds, and I can talk about my own experience. I live in the room with my parents up until I was 4, right? And then my father opened his restaurant, and my life started to be more comfortable around 10, 15, 10, 14. So I think that I do have memories when I slept in the room with my parents. And I completely agree with Manuel, is that example is very important, and you have to always keep reminding them where you came from and your story, because I think that one of the things that influenced me the most was actually being aware on a very frequent basis of what my parents went through. And I think that I don't think that should be done in a dramatic way, but just look, there's a huge amount of luck everywhere. I mean, if you were born in Ethiopia, your life chances will be really, really low. So there's really something that you have to celebrate by the fact that you you were able to travel to a developed country and have all those opportunities. So I think, yes. So I think having that example and having a healthy reminder of the things that you had to go through and really working as an example, because even though you are successful, I think that the core values, they need to be present, just to treat people well, just to help others as much as possible. And yes, that would be my 50 cents on that.
I like that, and just give me an idea to do charitable projects and go to these countries. And maybe I can't subject him to all those things that I went through, but to observe and see, look, how can we help these individuals? But, if it was for a different circumstance, you might have been this individual. You were born into a family that could look after you in the way that they do, but that is by pure 1 in a million chance. So we need to really appreciate that, and I think we all need to dose of that.
And the thing that I'm a very evidence-based guy and stuff like that. So if you really look at psychology, there is no happiness without struggle, isn't it? Well, I won't say dramatic struggle, but I mean, if you have to have a good body, you have to work out. If you want to have more stable emotions, you have to meditate. So there's always something that you need to intentionally do. It's not something that is born with you or just drops out of heaven. You really have to be intentional about that.
I would just change. I was just going to add a very short thing to what you said, André. I would just change the word struggle with challenge. I think that it has to do with for even the stress. Challenge, right? So for you, there's the good stress. There's when it's too much, then and when it's part negative, then you have the de-stress, the bad stress. But for you to be able to be motivated and everything, a certain amount of stress is good, and that's what the challenge gives you. So that's a very important thing in life. And I think that some people, that's why they get stuck in this comfort zone, which is not even comfortable. It's just what they are used to, because they fear the challenge. They fear the struggle that you just said also. And they know that they have to make changes. They know that they have to get out of their comfort zone. And that's really scary for some people. So if you look at it from a positive side, that a certain amount of challenge is good for you. It's going to make you grow. It's going to make you evolve. That's a positive thing. Okay, sorry. Continue.
It's going to make you happier. It's going to make you happier. Yeah. So I think that we all the topics that we written down we went through. But I would just like to ask you just as a final thought from you. So Manuela said that I think you have developed the podcast in dentistry. So yes, there's a huge responsibility in that as well. So what are your goals for how do you see Protrusive? Do you eventually see that as a physical space? It's only going to be online. What are the main goals? Because I think that up until now you have really placed a refreshing and very new and very positive energy in dentistry. So what's your goals for the podcast and for Protrusive? So what's the legacy that you want to leave behind? You have already left.
That's a good question. I like that. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, the legacy is a great question. I mean, in terms of direction, goal, nothing major, but, most of my listeners are about 70%, maybe 65% UK. Number 2 is US, Australia. There's still so many dentists who haven't checked out Protrusive. And if I can inject them with some enthusiasm and some clinical tips. So I think it's more about discovery. I think I'd love for more dentists to learn more about Protrusive and learn and share and come on as guests and stuff. So I think there's a lot of growth still to happen. In terms of legacy, the legacy can be that listening to this podcast made me feel good before I started my day is one thing. And number 2, that thing that I struggled with, listening to that podcast, it made it tangible. I finally get exactly why you put the thin cord in first and then the fat cord in second and the role of that. Things like that, where maybe those little questions you can't ask at dental school because you need a bigger picture first. And also, sometimes when you're interviewing someone who's 40 years experience, and then they're a master of composite resin, and they can teach you how to use 16 different layers and stuff. But the dentist just wants to know how many seconds to etch for and which bond you use, right? I want to be the guy who just says, guys, etch for 20 seconds.
Yes.
I want to get that direct information out there to make people get started in their journeys and fulfill their clinical desires.
Yeah, I really think that you have been very successful in that, because I think that the online dentistry field has been filled with that rock star mentality and the superstar, that only superstars can do good dentistry. And I think that you did inject a lot of confidence and self-esteem in the dentistry that the average dentist, which is all of us. But at the end of the day, we are all average dentists because 90% of our work is average dentistry, isn't it? And at the end, you're just dealing with a person in front of you, and you and honestly, I don't know any dentist that does not want to do a good job. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for the inspiration. And I really hope that we can have you for many years in dentistry. And by the way, do you think you're going to do clinical dentistry for the rest of your life, or do you have some other plans?
If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd say, yeah, clinical dentistry until I'm 70. I've now changed that to clinical dentistry until I'm 55 maybe. But yeah, clinical dentistry for sure. I mean, I love it. And I just look at my laptop, same as you, Andre. You open up your Google Photos, it's like teeth and gingival margins everywhere on a daily basis. I still like to buy the new gadgets and still like to do all the things. I think it's backbreaking work, and we need to look after our health and stuff. So my focus is definitely, looking after myself a bit more, doing more exercise. I think since I became a father, I do less, but I realized that. We joined the gym last week, me, my wife, my son.
Yes, that's
do some family gym time. But I think, as far as until at least age 55, I see my future in clinical dentistry, and I have so much to learn. I think my future is, more TMD, airway, but just comprehensive dentistry. But I just love being a general dentist. I just want to put one last thing out there, that too many people, they qualify, they think, okay, I need to be a specialist. I want to do endodontics. I want to do perio. There's not enough people who qualify and say, I want to be a generalist, And I feel as though 3 years ago when I started this podcast, I started talking about the beauty of being a GDP. And I think that's one more legacy, is that I want people, dentists, 93% of us are general dentists. I want them to get validation from what they do. And remember that being a general dentist is the most difficult role in dentistry there is. And let's not forget that. And remember, the most beautiful thing also, and the best thing about being a GDP, is cherry picking. So when you have that sour cherry, you pass it on. It's okay. You get to pick the best cherries, and there's no shame in that, because we have all the downside. Let's have an upside as well.
That's so cool. So I guess that we are not going to steal you more time, but I am 100% sure that we'll that we want to have you for a second time here in this in Soft Bites to talk of the same things or some different things. So it really is a pleasure to have you with us. And
thank you, Jaz. It was really wonderful.
And I hope, And
the pleasure is all mine, guys. Honestly, it's been great to get to know you both. Andre, we'll see you again in May. We should do a dual thing. Manuela, you should also come to
so that you can
a day of workshop with you.
A real person also.
We can do that. We can do that.
I think more and more I get demand for courses abroad and retreats and stuff.
Yes.
And to work on the mind.
Yeah.
The brain hands.
Yes.
We work on the brain and the mind with Manuela, and work on the hands with Andre. We should totally do that.
And we are giving a course in October. It's a 4-day course that we do in Sagres about mindful dentistry and practical tips on management.
Wow.
But we can mix something about the vertical preparation and do like a full day of mindfulness and some tips on career orientation and management of teams. And I think
I would love that.
I think we have some positive.
I think that would go down
discuss.
really well. Mixing the clinical, non-clinical, and abroad. I know there's a huge demand in the UK to go to see you and Andre. So if you marry that up with something non-clinical as well, I think it will add more value.
Absolutely. And it's always an excuse for you to stay longer and to party longer and to go to more restaurants and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
More sangria, more francesinha, more pasta.
Because in Portugal we have this, fado and saudade, but then we are very good at partying also. We have both sides.
Yes.
This is very true.
We want to forget our sadness by drinking and having fun.
True. That was very evident. That was very clear.
Yeah.
I'm glad this has been the birth of something very exciting in the future. So
thank you
so much for having me on. It's been a great journey. You guys are doing amazing things with Soft Bites, and I can't wait to share this with my community as well, so they can check out all the good things that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you for everyone that is listening to us.
Thank you, Jaz.
Thank you.